My research is titled Planning and Plato and begins with acknowledging that change is occurring. A recent example given is the Arkansas mathematics standards. With the many changes occurring in education, a person wonders, how is all this implemented successfully? What do we teach and how do we teach it? While the standards answer in part the question, what do we teach, the full question also touches the topic of student learning and school leadership. While figuring out a game plan, we will also look at how Plato would address the goal of education and the means to the goal. To determine learning objectives and goals, a person needs to know what they are preparing the student for: society, citizenship, a specific career, related careers, and/or national relations. To know the needed ingredients, you must know what you are making. When we look at Plato, we see the ancient Greeks were connected to their specific polis, or independent political unit. These units contain the ideas, way of thinking, values, and culture of the people in that polis. The polis was considered a part of a person's identity, and it shaped the way the person was groomed for adulthood. Plato's society had ideas about what was needed to maintain the polis, and that was the main goal of their education. We may not have a polis like the Greeks, but we have a society in which students need to be able to function. Common Core State standards are verbalizing a push for readiness on a global level. While a school might prepare students for local citizenship and even have curriculum geared toward a particular job market, the end goal is to have students able to function at the highest level they can. While our standards may change as standards of readiness change, Plato rejected change. Plato was for the polis, and change made it difficult to maintain a stable polis. Plato stuck with this theme throughout the construction of his curriculum plan. Children leaving the state nursery at age 6 would begin school and continue on until age 18. During school, students were introduced to a curriculum of music, literature, mathematics, and gymnastics. At the age of 18 was when the students were divided by capability. Some students left to enter occupations and trades, while the rest continued their education for 2 more years. These individuals were being prepared for either the military or the position of philosopher king. The future soldiers and philosopher kings went through physical training and military training. The future philosopher kings studied for 10 more years. Although Western philosophy would differ from Plato's rejection of change, maintaining a curriculum that has a level of stability is a commonality. In the student learning section, the fact that every learning difference, preference, and change makes intellectually connecting with a student a complex task is brought up. Educators need to guide students through a topic without becoming a talking head, a reason, in my opinion, many students are lost in the first place. We can assume that Plato would have used a Socratic method in these situations. The Socratic method is a group activity. It requires a joint effort on every participant's part to work toward a common goal. The Socratic dialogue is not meant to be a fight where everyone is pushing to make their point. It's a means to a community goal. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the Socratic method as the method of inquiry and instruction employed by Socrates, especially as represented in the dialogues of Plato, and consisting of a series of questionings, the object of which is to elicit a clear and consistent expression of something supposed to be implicitly known by all rational beings. The purpose of the Socratic method is the betterment of the individual through self-assessment. With a community that encourages honest self-assessment, it in turn betters the community. The goal of self and community betterment is initiated by the acknowledgement of faults and errors. The Socratic method is about looking at contradictions in ways of thinking or viewpoints. Plato, based on the Socratic method, would have dialogued about a way of thinking by using questions that increasingly dig deeper into the topic at hand, and as a result, include the contradictions to that way of thought. For the purpose of Plato's interjection, we will define school leadership as leaders within the school who come in contact with students daily, with the present demands performing and achieving in a visible, tangible way trickling down from the principals to the teachers to the students. Everyone's focus is directed right back to the leaders. The managers of the school are, a lot of the time, learners of new techniques and programs themselves. You may have heard the term lead learner before. This term may carry some negative connotations, but this title is supposed to portray a sense of relatability when students and faculty realize that their leader is still learning just as they are still learning. It makes the point that this person that is in authority has decided to lead by example. It is meant to encourage schools into becoming a community of learners. Plato was for a community of learners, and he wanted those learners to find the truth based on reasoning and not feelings. His idea, educator, would fill the main role of bringing about an intellectual conversion experience in the learner. These individuals would guide learners from being consumed in the sensory world, a world that is led by emotions and opinions, and introduce them to ideas that were to be free from what the world advertised. And to accomplish this, teachers were to use the Socratic method in an environment that stimulates contemplation and reflection. Since using the senses to learn is a common practice today, Plato's philosophy may seem like a dated and useless way to approach education. His Socratic method, however, does set the example of involving students in some way. Plato emphasized finding the truth on solid evidence, and to him, senses were not solid. In the present, education views the senses as the key to involvement, a learning experience that invites student input and assists with retainment of knowledge. My research paper ends by concluding the fact that a true educator knows how to help students function in the current society and yet change that society into something better. Plato preferred to accomplish this task through curriculum that would prepare students to support and function within the polis. He saw the need for educators that would direct students from emotional decisions and help them find truth by means of the Socratic method. While America may not be considered a polis, our society does depend on part as to how our children are raised and prepared for adulthood. If we want values and skills to last, they must be taught to the next generation. We must decide what we want our children's future to entail and prepare them in hopes that they can enjoy their dreams and our dreams for them. I'll end with a quote from Plato in his The Republic. "The beginning is the most important part of the work." Thank you.